South Africa has survived the COVID-19 storm and the numbers are declining. It's anticipated that the lockdown will move a notch down. But Wits University's Professor of Vaccinology cautions that we should tread carefully.
I think there's very little reason for South Africa not to move to level 1 because we're very much on a downward trajectory in terms of this particular outbreak. But at the same time, we need to be conscious that moving to level 1 doesn't mean that we're getting rid of non-pharmaceutical interventions. It doesn't mean that we're going to start allowing mass gatherings, because those are exactly the type of things that would allow for a resurgence of the virus in South Africa. So we at what we would call herd immunity, we possibly at the level of herd immunity in the context of the use of non-pharmaceutical interventions, which is very different to the percentage of the population that need to have been infected and to have developed immunity for herd immunity to persist without the use of non-pharmaceutical interventions. So if we move to level 1, it's not going to make it shouldn't make too much of a material difference, because people still need to use their face masks. People still need to adhere to physical distancing. People still need to avoid overcrowded situations. They need to ensure adequate ventilation when they're in closed spaces. Those things are not going to go away in the foreseeable future. But beyond that, again, very little reason why we shouldn't be at level 1 right now.
If we reach a level of about 1 case per 100,000 people, that translates into about 600 cases, then we can be categorized or take a view that we have low level of transmission. And that means that our overall risk is low. I think we could be really talking about moving beyond levels, moving to a situation where we can get to a point of being under the new normal, because we have to take the view that we're not going to get back to our old normal. So we're going to have to figure out what the new normal is, because that's what we're going to have in place for a long time until we have a vaccine. And part of that new normal will be getting on with, much of what we do normally, but with taking into account our prevention strategies and with certain restrictions.
While global infections have dropped, the world is still grappling to develop a vaccine. And there are those that are willing to participate in South Africa's second vaccine trial, Novavax. So the Novavax vaccine trial, which started about 3 weeks ago, hopes to enroll about 3,500 participants, half of which will receive the vaccine and the other half a placebo. So far, about 500 participants have enrolled. Professor Lynn Morris, the interim executive director of the National Institute for Communicable Diseases, is one of them. This is her second vaccination, a booster shot enhancing her immune response, which includes taking of blood to check the levels of antibodies and a nasal swab to determine that she is still coronavirus negative.
I wasn't nervous at all. I know these vaccines have been tested, for safety before they've gone into humans. So I know that they've been through a rigorous process, and I really do feel it's important that that people, stand up and say, I'm willing to basically be part of an experiment, because that's what this is. The vaccines are the most effective way of controlling diseases, and we clearly need a vaccine for coronavirus. It's caused devastation, and because it is a new virus, we don't have natural immunity to it, and so we really do need to have an urgency to developing a vaccine for coronavirus. And the reason I'm participating is because I believe in vaccination. The evidence speaks for itself, and I think that's going to be the fastest way for us to deal with this pandemic.
South Africa is already participating in the first vaccine trial, the ChAdOx1.
This vaccine is known as a protein-based vaccine, which uses more of a traditional approach in terms of vaccine development. Many of the vaccines that are used in children, as an example, against whooping cough, against tetanus, are vaccines that are developed using this protein-based technology. In this particular instance, they've used the protein of the virus known as a spike protein, and they've coupled it with another molecule to enhance the body's immune response to the vaccine. It is an approach that they've been successful in developing a vaccine against seasonal influenza as well, and to some extent in developing a vaccine against what is known as respiratory syncytial virus, a vaccine that's targeted at pregnant women to protect their young babies. So this sort of an approach is more tested than what is known as a vector-based approach in terms of vaccine development, which is an approach that the University of Oxford has used to construct their vaccine. So that's sort of the fundamental difference, is a different sort of technology and platform that's been used to develop the vaccine.
While that happens, South Africans are expected to return a little more to life as we've known it. Criselda Lewis, SABC News in Johannesburg.